Okay, so welcome to the clay section of this build. Now, this course specifically is puppet building, and part of that means that we're going to make a lot of different types of puppets. The very first puppet, probably the most important puppet that you should learn, is how to make a clay puppet. And the reason is because clay is the cheapest, most affordable substance to make puppets out of, and it's very versatile, and you can do nearly almost anything with it as long as you know the properties of clay. Now, the specific clay that I'm using is a brand called Jovi. Jovi, Jovi clay. It's produced in Spain, España, and the reason why I'm using it is because I'm in Mexico right now making this video. I live in California and I live in Mexico. I live in both locations. So I travel between the two, United States, California, not Mexico, but California, by the way, and Mexico City in Mexico. So I travel between the two, and in Mexico, Jovi clay is the most accessible. In the United States, Van Aken clay is the most accessible, and Van Aken clay, honestly, is not my favorite, and I'll tell you why. Van Aken clay is like whatever kind of substance they use for the powder, or not the powder, but the tinting of the Van Aken clay, it tends to stain everything. I mean, if you use red, it's going to stain your hands red. If you're going to use blue, it's going to stain your hands blue. You're going to walk around town with red hands, people are going to think you murdered somebody. It's really bad. The way to get around that is to add stuff like chalk to it, or add wax of some sort, like beeswax. That helps a great deal in reducing the amount of stain that it actually produces on stuff. The other thing too about that Van Aken clay is it tends to be a really runny, so you do need to add something to it to actually make it work properly for animation. Jovi clay, on the other hand, does not run. The whatever they use for the pigment in the Jovi clay does not run. I've been mixing this clay for the past 10 minutes and my hands aren't stained. I've done red, I've done blue, I've done black, I've done all that. In fact, this was black and white, so my hands should be technically with some black stain. There's nothing. The Jovi clay is great for that, and it's also a nice consistency for animation, whereas Van Aken is a little too soft. Van Aken is affected by heat greatly. This stuff is affected by heat less, but Jovi clay I like more. The other one is I can't remember the name of it, but it's a European brand, which they use at Ardeman. I'll put it in the notes on this video, whether that's New Plast. That's the name of the clay. So they use New Plast, plasticine at Ardeman, and that clay is very good clay also. I haven't really used it too much, but from seeing other people use it, it looks to be a great clay. They also add a great deal of chalk to it though at Ardeman to prevent it from running and being more friendly to the animator. Okay, so let's get started here. I've mixed gray and black together to produce this, white and black together to produce this clay here. And this is going to go on the body of the armature. I also have some special tools for carving. It's a wax carving set. It actually has a warning on here, California warning, which makes me suspect that it actually might have lead in it because it's made in India. So I'm a little worried that it has lead in it. I might change my tools out. But these are supposed to be stainless steel. Yeah, stainless steel, which is really why it doesn't, anyway. My favorite tool is actually made in Japan. I don't have one here in this set, but I do have stuff that's pretty close to it. And let me show you what those are. I have one specific tool that I don't have here in Mexico, but it's very similar to this. The paddle on my tool that I really love is smaller. There are smaller paddles, and it's a smaller type of tool. It's actually an actual dental tool, and it's beautiful. This is designed off of dental tools, but they're wax carving tools designed to basically mold and shape this stuff. So let's get started. And this is the other paddle that I like to use. And there's a little stabber just in case. But we're not probably going to use the stabber. Maybe we will. I just basically use two tools in my set. And all I'm going to do is, first I'm going to pose him a little bit. I'm going to turn, because I can see the wire, I can twist it a little bit this way and not have to worry about, if I untwist it, that's a worry. And then I can twist this one this way. Okay. So I have him here. And bend his legs a little bit. There he is. And then I twist this way, because that's the way the wire goes. I twist that way. Okay. And now I have my basic setup for my character. Now I can make him stand once I have the clay on him, but he's going to be fine for right now. Let's do this a little bit like that. Yeah. Okay. And basically, this is really simple. You just add clay. It's that easy. Now I'm going to have a little run over on the clay, of course, because it's not mixed chemical. I mean, it's mixed while it's hard and not liquid. Now you can mix this clay in a double boiler, two colors, or in a pot over a hot stove. It's your choice. Just keep the temperature very low because it'll burn or get too hot. Yeah. And I'm just going to add this to here. And we'll sculpt as we go. Now this is technically your first sculpting instructional video. But there's really not much to it. I'm just going to get on here, smooth him out, and he's going to be done. That's straightforward and simple. I might give him a little character in the face. Something else to point out is in the face I'm not using beads for the eyes or balls of some sort or pearls or any of that kind of stuff. Right now, we will do that in the future. The reason for that is because you might not have access to that wherever you are. I'm going to give you some options to kind of pick and choose how you want to design things and show you an alternative to what everybody else is showing you in the world of nonsense puppet making. Okay. One of the great reasons for bending his legs initially is so you can see where the knee is. So if I push that, I can just push that there. And we just applying clay, really. Another thing to point out to you is that standardized clay puppet building in the old days would go and they would make molds of a master sculpt out of ultracal or hydrocal, and then they would have a press mold made where they could press the clay. They would heat it up to a certain point where they could press it in and pull it out, let it cool and pull it out. And they'd also add powder to the mold as a release. And this was because they had to produce a lot of puppets. And this is true for Gumby and for Ardaman and for many other productions that used clay characters, because you also wanted to standardize the look. You don't want to keep sculpting over and over and over again. Okay, so we're doing this. See how I'm building him up here. And we'll just build him up. His chest area is a specific size. I smooth out with my fingers. Just get it on there. Little pieces of clay at a time. Now, I love clay because it's versatile. That's why I love clay. But I don't do a lot of clay animation with puppets. I usually do a lot of graphic design animation with clay, or abstract animation with clay. I own sell for 4 companies. Clay puppets are so rare to be asked to animate. And sometimes when I get asked to animate them, I actually turn down the jobs because the person asking has no idea how much work it actually takes, and they expect me to do a whole animation for $100. I go, well, add a couple zeros and we'll start talking. But yeah, it gets a little crazy. Sometimes people misunderstand the process of stop motion, how much work it takes. I mean, this specific video here you can see, and I'm just doing something very basic, but this specific video is taking hours to make. this one specific puppet design, which is me just free doing it out of my mind. I mean, I had a preset design idea, and I know how to make these armatures, but usually it takes a lot longer because you have to go and physically draw out the picture, get approvals, go through the process, build the damn thing, and then animate it, and then all the post work that goes with it. So being observant of the process is important, and understanding. So when you look for jobs, and when you go in and actually get a job in animation, doing puppet building or doing animation itself, you need to be aware of how much it costs you in time and money to do something. You need to break down your hours. How many hours is it going to take me to build something? So for instance, if this was a silicone puppet and it was specifically requested, it could be anywhere between $1,000 and $30,000, and I'm not joking. Sometimes you get those people asking for stuff and you go, you want articulated full mouth shapes out of silicone. I have to call somebody else to do some work on this with me. So you start adding people onto your crew, the price goes up. Yeah, that $30,000 is not going to be all yours, by the way. Okay, so building this up, and I'm noticing some problems. I'm trying to get the clay on here specifically. There we go. There we go. Get a grab point. There we go. Okay. Trying to figure out my scale of how thick I want to make this. Sculpting puppets is kind of like well, it definitely is an art form in itself, but it's also a very intricate art form where, I'm talking to be entertaining here, but usually I'm very, very quiet. I actually turn music off. I like it when it's completely quiet and there's only crickets. But I'm in Mexico City right now, there's no crickets. There's actually lots of cars and airplanes and people. They're doing construction downstairs, so during the day it's impossible to make these videos. It's absolutely impossible. It kind of kills me because I could fly through making some of these videos for you guys, but I have to wait till it's really late. Then I just had a baby boy. He is loud as hell. He's probably gonna be a singer. You see, there's some problems. But yeah, I like to do this without any sound. I like to just kind of zone out and just make the designs. Okay, bulking him up here. Okay, this one here is specific. I'm just going to push it right on there. I could have mixed this clay a little bit better, but it's alright for now. Okay, now he looks completely horrible right now. You're like, why does he look like that? Well, guess what? You have to build him up first, and then you gotta break him down. And he's not even fully built up yet. There's actually a whole process to this. Yeah, I'm kind of rushing too. It's really not that important. Just kind of block out where the pieces go, and then you design from there. Also, I'm going to probably use some geometry on him, square out some sections, make it then round it out. Alright. There we go, put this in here. Butt going. There we go. I don't want to go crazy. If I overbuild him, he's going to be really hard to animate. That's the first problem. Oops. I want to make sure he's nice and solid, but not crazy. There's another thing to point out, that sculpting and drawing are very similar, but completely different. So when you sculpt, you can use geometry to do the shapes and stuff like that. It's very important to understand that. It's if you do geometry on a sculpt by blocking it out, helps a great deal. Understanding where the muscles are and stuff like that, also a great deal of importance. With drawing, I actually see a lot of people that just draw and they don't break things down. And I see a few people that sculpt and they don't break things down. And I gotta say, those people drive me crazy because, man, I wish I could do that. Alright. See, his back area does not look as great because we haven't built that up yet. Sections, build up his legs. We can literally just do this. Just add clay to his feet, big old bunches of clay, and blend it in. And yeah, big old feet. Cut off this section there. Now he's already standing, and you don't need a tie down. You see what I'm saying here? Now, if you weren't using clay, it'd be a little bit harder to make him stand. Using like an action figure, forget it. He would fall right over after a while. But clay tends to stick a little bit. Let's get a foot. There you go, standing on his own. So basically I'm just building them up. Now, instead of having you watch this whole video for the next 2 hours while I play and play and play with this character, I'm going to stop the video and then I'm going to get to a stage where I feel like you will understand what's going on, and I'll go through the smoothing technique with you, and then we'll end the video from there. So I'll stop the video for now and then come back at a more completed stage of the actual sculpt. Okay, so I'm at the final stage where I've gotten the puppet designed where I like it. All right, he's pretty much just like almost like a J Clay kind of character. I'll post the J Clay videos for you so you can check them out. Those are done by Tim Hiddle, who I mentioned earlier. And also, we're going to talk about in another section. We're going to talk about Tim Hiddle's armature design, which is very unique versus what we just did here. But as you can see, it is a clay character, and the clay character can move. I move some pieces. There you go. See, he moves. But if you start moving, you also have to push the clay into the wire. Just be aware of that. And there's a thing about smoothing, a couple things I should point out to you. Right now, I'm smoothing by hand. It's enough, but with my finger. It's enough for the animation. If I'm going to do some animation with this guy, it's enough for what I want. If you really, 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 really want to get him super smooth, there's a couple things that you can do. The first is being that you would go and you get maybe a silicone tool and take a silicone tool over top of this, and that will smooth out some of it. Not always effective. So the other methods that you can use are to take a paintbrush, and with the paintbrush, you would literally dip it in some oil of some specific type. In the past, they used eucalyptus oil, or they used mint, some kind of mint oil, made everything smell like cookies. And you would basically just smooth it on here and paint it. Now, in modern times, we have a thing called Citrusolve. So Citrusolve is another thing that's a solvent, but it's made from oranges and citrus. And you can also use that, paint that on here, and it will smooth it out as well. It'll also eat your clay, so beware that your surface ends up becoming tacky and sticky. Not the best ideal situation for animating with. Now I have some tools here that I can also smooth with. I can use this tool here. Actually, I'm going to use this one because we're going to look at the eye real quick. And I have some clay on my thing, and I can take some smoothing out. I can smooth some areas. Now the problem is as I go, it also removes and leaves marks. This one here, which is a paddle tool, this also smooths, but will also leave marks. So you leave tool marks. Now, depending how picky you are and how close the character is to camera, is going to determine how crazy you're going to get with your smoothing. All right. As you can see with this, it's not terribly crazy. So we can actually do a lot with this character, just animating him, playing with him, and whatever. I can shape the eyebrows to do emotions, and let's see, get him like that. And the eye sockets, and he can emit a lot of different types of emotions. That's the good part. Let's see, let's get one over here, that like this. Maybe make him a little angry because he's tired of staying up so late. No, I'm joking. And yeah, so we have a bunch of different things that we can do with this character. Also, if you needed to, you could also put spheres into eye sockets and do whatever you need to do with that. But for a base character, this is great. Alright, so that should end the lesson completely for, the video lecture. There is going to be more video lectures in the future, and I think I solved the problem with the camera, so I think we're good there. Yeah, so stick around, check out the other parts of the lesson, the module, and we will discuss some more things in the future. But for now, this is the video for the clay armature character. Okay, hope you enjoyed it.